You can't say what Don Lemon said in 2013. The degree to which we have already been socially engineered on a mass scale.
So how do we talk about it right now?
Unrecognized.
How do we even bring it up?
I don't know.
How can we discuss it right now? Because I think it needs to be said. He was an embarrassment cutting Terry Crews off like he did. When Terry Crews was essentially saying very much in tune with what he said.
Oh, no. Terry Crews didn't go that far.
No, you're right. He didn't even go
Don Lemon.
You're absolutely right.
Rails.
He didn't even go that far.
Don Lemon.
That's right.
Went on what I could only describe as a racist white supremacist tirade by today's standards.
Yeah, I guess so.
The things he was saying about the black community, if it was uttered today by us or anybody, would be an instant permaban.
And yet Thomas Swalwell says very much a lot of the same stuff.
Yep.
He's talking about it.
Talking about it.
And he's amazing. I think he's one of the best geniuses that we have in America right now.
Let me just put it this way. What Don Lemon said comes... You listen, I'll do this. Stefan Molyneux was just banned from YouTube and Twitter.
Okay.
And I'd be willing to make a bet. To be fair, I don't watch, and I'm not super familiar with Stefan Molyneux's content, but I'd be willing to bet the things Stefan Molyneux said probably came from Don Lemon.
Yeah.
Talking about race and their behaviors and their choices and what that results in.
Simply throwing trash on the ground.
I mean,
when he said that, I was like,
Lemon
wow. Because I lived in cities. And that is absolutely true. They don't care. They toss trash right on the ground.
Personal responsibility.
And I'm not talking race. I'm talking everybody in a city.
That's why I'm saying Don Lemon went on what I would call a racist tirade.
You're absolutely right.
I'll give you one example.
That's true,
because he
was targeting them specifically. That's true.
Don Lemon accused the black community of specific things that are not unique to the black community, that exist for all races.
That's true. I agree. I can vouch. Living in the city, I've seen it from all races. It wasn't just
2013.
In 2013, yeah.
So I bring this up just to point out the degree to which we have already been socially engineered on a mass scale. Mm-hmm. We don't even realize it. But you go back to this article from it's from, I think I have it from CNN, going back to 2013, and the things that Don Lemon was saying about clothing, about fathers.
Yeah,
it's from Real Clear Politics in 2013.
Well, I mean, it was from his show.
It's from his show where he said Bill O'Reilly doesn't go far enough.
And yeah, that's.
Bill O'Reilly.
Well, and you know what? He does it twice too.
Yep.
He quotes Bill O'Reilly, and then he goes, "You know what? He's right." But you know what? And he says more. Listen to this. And then he goes, Bill O'Reilly says some more stuff, digging in a little further. And then he goes, "You know what? He's right." But he still didn't go enough. He still didn't go to say enough that he should have said. And then he goes. There's a list of 5 things he says. There's 5 things you need to do.
This Don Lemon video and with Terry Crews is important for a couple of reasons. It shows the degree to which mainstream society has been radicalized.
Yes.
And it gives you a glimpse of what we can no longer discuss.
Correct.
If Don Lemon was willing to say that Bill O'Reilly didn't go far enough in 2013, and today he would argue with Terry Crews when Terry Crews just says we're all equal.
Right.
The reality is, people like to say, like Tim got red pilled or whatever. That's not true. Tim Pool is exactly where Tim Pool has been.
That's true.
When I worked for Vice,
right on the fence.
I worked. Listen. I worked for Vice. Do you have any idea what Vice was doing? In the early 2010s.
Yeah.
Like, it was gross. It was edgy.
That's
edgy
right.
stuff.
That's right when I met you.
It was edgy stuff, man.
Yeah.
And today it's all woke feminism.
That's true.
So I was talking to some people from Vice, and they said to me, we realized it wasn't, specific people who changed, because like there's specific people at Vice who were accused of being right wing and far right years later. And they said, we realized it wasn't them who changed, it was us. We realized that certain things weren't acceptable anymore. And I said, let me stop you right there. I was like, do you realize what you're saying? You're saying that from the perspective of regular people that you were friends with, that created this company and worked with you and helped you grow it and everything, they stayed where they were, doing what was completely acceptable. You changed your behaviors.
Boom.
So when you say they are far right, you realize they're not right.
You just kept walking further
That means
and further
you
left.
Are far left.
That's correct.
If these people weren't far right to begin with, they aren't today.
Yep.
So when I worked for Fusion, I had the same opinions. We were doing a weak version of this show. What is that?
I don't know.
Street sweeper?
We were doing like the first iteration of this podcast, a couple episodes in 2014. I did a
that's right. Forgot about that.
We did. Yeah. I did a video about why I thought it was wrong that there was segregated graduation ceremonies being proposed at Harvard.
Yeah.
I did a video about Kesha and the accusations, the accusations that were challenged.
Yeah, I remember that.
My stance on false allegations and free speech and all that stuff is exactly where it's always been. I've always been a moderate, aside from when I was younger, but I mean like in my more recent career, a moderate left-leaning liberal working for Fusion, working for Vice. They got radicalized, as evidenced very easily by Don Lemon saying Bill O'Reilly doesn't go far enough on CNN.
Yeah.
2013.
So that was from 2013. So I posted something on Twitter that I noticed, and it was not from 2013. It was from 2017. And it was the story of Monroe Bergdorf, who got fired from their job at Revlon for saying some really stridently racist stuff that BLM is saying now, because Revlon just hired them back. Because it's no longer inappropriate to say those things that BLM is saying.
Can you hint at what the conversation was about? I don't know if you're allowed to say it because it's YouTube.
Yeah, so Monroe just got on and was saying stuff like, the white man is holding me down and everything's,
that kind of stuff.
Internalized racism and just, normal stuff now.
Look at Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
Yep.
Was it 3 years ago?
Just signed a big, huge deal with Disney.
Mm-hmm.
That has been a dramatic radicalization.
Oh, yeah.
It's fast.
So I'm in the same spot I've always been. I'm chilling, doing my thing. And I think the important factor is what causes someone to be radicalized is their friends being radicalized. So I wondered why it is that there's like one friend of mine I've known for years who has gone surprisingly Marxist, which is weird.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not kidding. Like posting anti-capitalist stuff. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're like a wealthy actor in Hollywood. What are you doing?
I forget what clothing company. Some clothing company. Maybe I don't remember what it was, but Armani maybe. I don't know. They posted something about, capitalism. Like if it wasn't for capitalism in World War II, like, America wouldn't be selling weapons. And I was like, we won the war, right?
What?
Because we joined the war, we helped defeat Germany in that war.
They would have won.
Yeah.
It was just like the UK being blitzkrieg.
Are you forgetting that part of it? Because capitalism actually won us the war, basically. If you want to put it that way,
yeah.
we'll put it that way. Like, okay.
I started wondering how it is this friend of mine is posting Marxist memes.
Okay, right.
And then I started seeing who they were liking and who they were promoting in their posts. And I was like, interesting.
Memes.
Marxist, far leftist.
Marxist memes.
And so then I thought about it and I'm like, I don't do anything but work. So I don't go up to random people. Like I don't hang out with people and then share ideas like that.
Yeah.
I've always done my thing reading the news in my isolated, semi-isolated kind of way where I sit down, I read the news for the past decade. So I follow similar people. I've seen them get radicalized. I follow similar news outlets. I've seen them get radicalized. And these people don't realize it because if they say that we are the summation of the 5 people who surround us. But if the 5 people who surround you are slowly being radicalized, and then you slowly start agreeing with them, not realizing you're moving further and further left, 10 years later, you'll look to your right and you'll see me far away and go, wow, Tim became so far right. And it's like, bro, I've been standing in the same spot.
I haven't moved.
There's grooves.
I'm living in this van right by the river here.
That's right, where I've been.
The river hasn't moved either.
I am still there. I am sitting on a couch with butt grooves in it. I've been sitting here. I haven't moved, man. I follow a lot of the exact same
please
people
don't
I
talk
always
about
did.
your butt grooves, man. Come on.
I follow a lot of the
It's a
same
family
people I
show
always
here.
have. And it's funny when I see them post, and the hacker community is the best example. In my opinion, these people are the lowest of the low. In the early 2010s, I was hanging out at hackerspaces, friends with a lot of high-profile-ish hackers and professors. These people were all about fighting authoritarianism, defending the right to free expression and free speech. Now where are they? Completely in opposition to it. Fully on board with social justice, authoritarianism. My favorite is that there was a guy during Occupy Wall Street who approached me and wanted to, he's like, I want you to get involved with all these things we're doing.
Yeah.
And he worked with a nonprofit called Free Press. Today, Free Press advocates for censorship. They're one of the organizations trying to boycott Facebook and demanding censorship.
That's crazy.
How did we get to a point where you don't realize that if you named your organization Free Press and then something happened where today you are pro-censorship and that's one of your core missions, you realize like you've been like zombified or, you know, you've been turned. The bad guys got you.
Well, Don Lemon is definitely a different version of himself from what I saw.
Oh, yeah.
If he was that 2013 Don Lemon, I'd watch him.
You know, I'd love to see.
I'd be like, wow, this guy, he's standing up. He's saying some bold things.
Donald Trump wouldn't even say what he said.
No.
So Donald Trump would not say what Don Lemon said. Don Lemon made a lot of points about the behaviors of young black men and black culture and things that are not unique to black culture.
Some of them could be argued, maybe, but not all of them.
Some of them could be argued that what he was addressing affects everybody,
actually,
but they could make a change.
Right. The race part of it is what he added to it.
Exactly.
But it's more of a culture thing, I think, as if you take a step back and look at it. It's not
talking about families and kids the way he did.
Yeah.
Was like, wow. That was right out of like.
Tell me more about how Terry Crews was wrong, Don Lemon.
But like the things he was saying, you would get that stuff from alt-right YouTube videos.
It's true.
And Don Lemon was saying it first.
That's absolutely true.
So the radicalization is the left.
It's crazy. If you haven't seen this video, we can't play it for you. We can't read the words, but it's pretty bold, and it is not the Don Lemon that I've been seeing
it's not,
lately.
Yeah. I don't want to pretend like it's the worst thing in the world, like he was spouting out racial slurs.
No, it's not.
But it's Don Lemon going on what I would describe by today's standards as a racist rant.
Well,
and
really, what it
is
is him saying, you know, it's not systemic racism. You need to you need to step up and look at yourself. That's essentially, like, if I could narrow down what he said, that's essentially what he said.
One of the things we can highlight is that he blames the black community for littering, which is absolutely not unique to any race.
It's people not caring anymore. Well, it's big cities. I see it a lot.
Right. But that's why I would say that, but by today's standard.
But
like,
he specifically said, I lived in a white neighborhood and I didn't see anyone throwing trash on the ground. And then he specifically said, I live in Harlem now, and now I see it everywhere. And
listen,
it's like, ooh,
there's so much wrong
You
with
went
that.
there, Don.
You know what?
You went there, man.
You know what he's actually saying?
What?
That he lived in a rich neighborhood.
Boom.
And he doesn't understand the difference.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And he blames their race for it. Don Lemon is a racist. I am appalled by this video. Now hold on. I want to make sure I'm clear. I don't think what he said is the worst thing in the world. I do think it's got racial. He didn't need to go like he didn't bring it doesn't need to bring race into it.
Yeah.
But I do believe that if we actually read what he said, we would be flipping a coin on whether or not YouTube would give us a strike and delete this video. They might allow us to talk about it on the grounds that it's newsworthy. But if we just repeated what he said, like hit the points made by Don Lemon, that's a strike, hands down, boom, hands down. Like what you mentioned, where he says, now that I lived in a white neighborhood, and I'll tell you all the things they did, and it's like, you are a multi-millionaire who moved to an upper class neighborhood.
Yeah, you're not. You aren't in that class anymore. You're speaking for people that you don't understand anymore. That's what I'm saying.
He didn't move to the poor white suburbs of South Chicago, southwest suburbs of Chicago.
Right, exactly.
Where there's a suburb of Chicago called Summit. We call it Scummit.
Oh yeah.
And it's mostly white, lower income, and I know people who lived there, and there's a lot of drugs, and it is not. Don Lemon, you want to talk about litter? You want to talk about community? You need to understand what poverty is. And that's why I think what he did was overtly racist, because he ignores the issues of class and blames the race for what. I can't repeat it, man.
We'll see.
We're crop dusting on the danger. YouTube could ban us.
I feel like you didn't even want to do the story. You were kind of like, man, it's a little, and I'm like, no, we got to talk about this.
Well, we can talk. It wasn't that. I was like, you realize if we say what he said, YouTube will delete the stream.
Yeah, we can't say.
Well, I think this is important, and you know what happens next is really important too. Seeing what happens. What is CNN gonna do? Because this just popped up today. Like, I saw this floating around today. Someone tagged me in it, and you know who you are. I appreciate you for tagging me in this, and it's crazy, and we'll see, because CNN, cancel culture, like, what are they gonna do? Don Lemon's one of their head figures right now.
Yeah.
Here's, if you want to find the video. Because again, I don't believe it isn't that bad. The people are saying it isn't racist. Trust me, man. I'm telling you, what he said is YouTube bannable. Search for Don Lemon, Bill O'Reilly doesn't go far enough, and you can watch what he said.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who defend what he said. But I think what the point I'm making is not that I'm agreeing or disagreeing or getting in any part of that argument. I'm telling you that based on what he said, if you say that today, if you record that video and put it on Twitter, Twitter will ban you.
I mean,
hands down.
There are people out there that are saying that. Like I said, Thomas Sowell is saying it. Larry Elder is out there saying this stuff too. There's some prominent figures out there
but prominent
that are
figures
probably going to get banned.
No. The prominent figures tend to get more leeway.
Okay.
So during the Learn to Code fiasco, I tweeted it a bunch of times.
Oh yeah, did you?
I never got suspended.
Of course.
Okay.
Because I'd be willing to bet YouTube has a coding system for profiles that are internal.
All right.
For whether or not someone's a journalist or whether or not someone's a celebrity or sports.
Okay.
And I'm making that guess based on the fact that Twitter will do anything for journalists because it's the largest and most active user base.
Am I a journalist now?
I don't know.
Technically.
You might get verified.
I don't know what I am, honestly. I'm on IMDb.
Cultural commentator. Cultural commentary.
Someone was like, "You're on IMDb." I was like, "Oh, I'm on IMDb for Timcast."
Yeah, but people
don't take this away from me, Tim. That was it. I got nothing.
Like you got stage at him.
I think we got it out though. I mean, people need to just look at, see it for themselves. You know, go watch it.
I would make the point before we go that Thomas Sowell and Larry Elder are very, very careful to say things like this is a class issue. It's not necessarily a race issue. They're very precise in their language.
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson
and
would be very proud.
And they use a lot of facts.
Right.
They back
They've
up
done their homework.
every single thing that they say with facts and history of the way that how we got here and how much we've done to get here.
Right.
Which people like to just ignore.
Well, let me wrap up that whole conversation.
Sure.
With the point is, when 230 reform happens overnight, that conversation that Don Lemon had will come back like a dam breaking, a flood sweeping across the valley.
Yep.
People will start bringing these things up. They'll start talking about family. They'll start talking about the importance of free speech and culture, education.
Yep, you're right.
All of these conversations will come back, and you don't even realize they're gone.
Oh, I can't wait to have conversations again. Honestly, that's actually my job now. So
someone brought up a really good point.
I'm getting paid to have conversations. It's great. So
I went on,
but I want it to be okay. I want it to be politically correct to have a conversation.
When I went on the Rogan podcast with Dorsey,
yeah,
a lot of people made a really good point. They said, "Why are 4 liberals in a room talking about what conservatives think?" And I said, "That's a great point."
Yep.
Joe should have a liberal and a conservative,
or
point. 2 conservatives to come in and talk about these issues. Actually, it would be great if Will Chamberlain, who is a lawyer and he runs human events, gave his perspective along with maybe like a higher profile Ben Shapiro or something on their view on just the general culture around censorship with a legal perspective.
Yep.
Because typically these arguments have been, right now, the internet is all liberals. Like conservatives exist, and there's a reason why they're all going to Parler, because they are walking on the razor's edge. I'm moderate, liberal politically, and there is what I described as kind of like a temporary alliance between liberals and conservatives, real liberals.
Yeah.
Because we agree on most things.
Classic liberal.
No, like traditional or social liberal. Like the liberals of the 90s and the 2000s are classical liberal is a right-wing position. It's center-right.
Oh.
Social liberals are center-left. Center-left and the right.
Liberal can mean anything nowadays.
Well, yeah, right. Now people use it to just mean leftist, which is not true. So what I mean to say is, of the 90s and 2000s and even the 2010s, social liberalism was like the default for the Democratic Party. It's very similar to liberalism, but it has a slant towards social programs and civil rights issues. I would consider myself a social liberal in that I want the 1964 Civil Rights Act in place.
Yeah.
I want equality under the law and all that stuff. Classical liberals are more like free market, less government intervention, but very similar in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
There's an alliance now between conservatives, traditional conservatives, diehard conservatives, and social liberals, the intellectual dark web, the politically homeless, because of the illiberalism of the far left. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. If you want to catch the full show, tune in to this channel, subscribe, hit the like button, or check us out on iTunes and Spotify, and we will soon have this podcast up for free on all podcast platforms. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all in the next episode.